How are all of you lovely people doing today? My name is John and welcome to another beautiful episode of the Zombie Storyline Q&A. This is a series where I take your questions about the zombie storyline and I answer them. Whether it's a big, a small, or a simple question, I'm more than happy to take it on. So, you can either leave your questions down below or tweet me at JohnnyJ25. Without further ado, let's get rocking and rolling with the episode. Today's episode will begin with a comment from Pikachu ODST who says, "She's not on the moon, she's in Shangri-La. Check out the moon loading screen remake." I wanted to bring up this comment because this serves as a correction to my previous episode. Last episode we were discussing the fate of Samantha following her teleportation in the giant intro cinematic. I had talked about how Samantha couldn't have entered the pyramid because the Keeper was able to enter the pyramid and then bring it to Der Eisendrache. Well, if Samantha's not in the pyramid, where did she go? Quite possibly she ended up on another part of the moon. And if Samantha is on the moon, then when the moon blows up, she probably blew up with the moon. Now we're going to throw this all out the window. Ignore all of that because Pikachu ODST was right. I took a look at the moon loading screen remake and you can see Samantha. I knew about Samantha being in there. The shadow was no longer on the moon and is instead in an area with a lot of orange. Now, it never quite clicked in my head that orange actually belonged to Shangri-La. For some reason, it just never dawned on me. I don't know, I never made that two and two connection. I then compared this image to the Shangri-La loading screen, and the connection was pretty obvious. You can actually superimpose this image of Samantha over the Shangri-La loading screen, and the mountains match perfectly. The peaks and valleys and crests and cracks of the mountain match identically to the ones in the original Shangri-La loading screen. So, this is definitive proof. Following the teleportation in the giant intro cinematic, Samantha, rather than going to the moon, actually goes to Shangri-La, and this would explain why she was unable to enter the pyramid and wreak the havoc that she had earlier. We can also make the suggestion that because Samantha and Maxis teleport together, Maxis most likely did not teleport to the moon either. We can also assume this because they never discussed Maxis appearing at the moon. Maxis most likely went to Shangri-La with Samantha. The implications of this have yet to be seen. It hasn't even been mentioned yet in the storyline. We can only assume this based on these loading screens. What this makes me theorize is maybe Dr. Maxis, the Dr. Maxis voice who was guiding us in the giant, is actually going to get them. He was unavailable to contact us in Der Eisendrache. Maybe that's because he was on his own separate mission. Maybe he was going to Shangri-La in order to locate Samantha and Maxis, and when he does that, we are actually at Der Eisendrache trying to stop Dr. Groff and recovering the Dempsey test subject. Just a suggestion, because there has to be some sort of implications to Samantha and Dr. Maxis appearing at Shangri-La. Big things happen at Shangri-La. I mean, there's a freaking tornado ripping temples out of the ground that fly into space and land on the moon, and it looks like the Black Sun and the Vril are possibly a part of this because we can see it inscribed into the ground. This is a crazy image that we've never been able to fully explain. It's always just been just out of our grasp and our understanding of the zombie storyline. But now that we see times are changing and Samantha is actually appearing at Shangri-La, quite possibly we'll explore this further on, and we may start to actually get some answers and some information that can allow us to decrypt and decode what is actually happening in this loading screen. I'm excited. All we know for sure, though, is that there is a new Shangri-La loading screen, and this new loading screen features Samantha's shadows in the mountains, which indicates that she is there, she's no longer on the moon, and like I suggested last episode, she does not actually die on the moon, she doesn't enter the pyramid, and quite possibly, nobody is controlling the zombies. In fact, even Richtofen suggested that in The Giant. He first accuses Samantha and then actually suggests maybe it's somebody else or quite possibly nobody because the Keeper was able to enter the pyramid in Der Eisendrache.
She taunts us! She or someone else.
Moving on, we now have a question from Wolf Leader 48 who asks, would the Vril ever betray us? This is a good question to ask because we need to start looking around and wondering, how does Primus fail? We've been told Primus will fail. Something's going to go wrong. What is going to go wrong? Is somebody going to trip at the finish line? Is somebody going to betray us? Or is there some sort of inherent force in the universe that will stop us from ever completing our goals? Are we trapped in a cycle? What is the reason that will cause Primus to fail? And it's good to start exploring and looking around at the people around us and wondering if somebody could actually cause our downfall. So let's take a look at the Vril. Will the Vril ever betray us? we need to understand where the Vril come from. The Vril were actually created in a novel known as The Coming Race. And this novel actually has an excerpt that I would like to read to you guys. It goes like this. I cannot banish from my mind the consciousness that I was among the people who, however kind and courteous, could destroy me at any moment without the scruple and compunctuation. The virtuous and peaceful life of the people which, while new to me, had seemed a holy contrast to the contentious, the passions, the vices of the upper world, now began to oppress me with a sense of dullness and monotony. So he's describing the Vril, and he describes them as courteous and kind and peaceful in contrast to people like us who lust for power and who lust for greater things. The keepers, in a sense, are good at heart. They are all powerful, but they don't let the power get to their head. And this is the nature of the Vril. This is a direct primary source discussing the Vril. This is where Treyarch got the inspiration for the Vril. Otherwise, they wouldn't have used the Golden Rod or the Black Sun or discussed the Vril in Call of the Dead. We can take from this excerpt that the Vril are probably good and one of the candidates that are least likely to betray us. In addition to that, the Vril have been fighting aside us for millennia. We can see it in the crests that our characters adorn. We're all under the same banner. We're fighting for the same team. In addition to that, there are monuments depicting the battles that our characters have gone through alongside the Keepers. We can see them in Shadows of Evil on the wall in the Pack-a-Punch rooms. The Vril, while a bit scary, are the good guys. They seem to be on our team and are probably gonna fight with us tooth and nail to the end because they are trying to stop the Apothicans. That's why they were coming after us when we were completing the rituals in Shadows of Evil. They're on our team. They're the good guys. If Primus is gonna fail, it's not because of the Vril. We're gonna end today's episode with a question from El Zerovation with Da Bacon, and he asks, where do the Apothicans come from? The Apothicans are new members to the zombie storyline. They were introduced to us in Shadows of Evil, although they haven't had a proper introduction like, say, Dr. Maxis or Dr. Richtofen. They're something we assume to be. We kind of assume that the Apothicans are the people we're fighting against in Shadows of Evil. It hasn't been explicitly told to us, but one good guess that leads us to believe that the Apothicans are the people we're fighting against in Shadows of Evil would be the Apothicon Servant. It's a very tentacle-y weapon, much like all the tentacles we're seeing around the map, such as with the Shadow Man or the giant squid that appears across the map, or the Margwa. All of these sort of creatures are what we believe to be Apothicans. They are a race of greater evil hell-bent on destroying the world, basically. They are the ones that are trying to reap the apocalypse, and we're trying to stop them. They are essentially the bad guys. Very good and very manipulative bad guys, but bad guys no less. So where do they come from, and why are they important to the zombie storyline? Some people suggest that they're actually aliens from another universe or another dimension. This is because they often appear following the sighting of meteors. And maybe those meteors either have element 115, and that is something that the Apothicans desire, or the Apothicans are a part of the meteors, or you can associate meteors with Apothicans. We aren't quite sure. Treyarch hasn't really delved too deep into their story. Although I believe we will soon, and we may actually know where the Apothicans come from. Treyarch gave us the coordinates to a location known as Non Madal. Non Madal is actually the inspiration for the sunken city of Ryla. And one thing we know about the Apothicans is that a lot of their inspiration derives from H.P. Lovecraft, who was the creator of the Cthulhu mythos as well as the city of Ryla. Within this mythos, in this city of Ryla, is where Cthulhu lays dormant. And if we have Ryla becoming relevant in the zombie storyline in the form of Non Madal, maybe this is where the Apothicans actually come from. Maybe they live in this sunken city below the waves, or maybe they live in this sort of city in another universe, or maybe it actually acts as a dimensional gateway. It's going to be relevant. We might actually even explore it in the next DLC. We're going to have to wait and see, but if you ask me, where do the Apothicans come from, this would be my best bet. With that, we're going to wrap things up for this wonderful episode of the Zombie Storyline Q&A. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and maybe subscribe for more episodes. I upload multiple every week, and if you enjoyed this one, I'm sure you'll love the next one. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and bye.